Greetings, friends and future friends. This video is on the Korg Pa5x, and I'm going to show you how I use the Korg Pa5x to produce music. Yes, you can take all these different variations, changes to this style, even chord sequences, change all that stuff, then bring it into the DAW system, and then once you have it in your DAW system with all the plugins, then you can export it to whatever file format your client wants. So let's get started. Let's get in the studio. Okay, let's produce some music with the Korg Pa5x. First, we're going to bring up our style. And if we go to styles, and again, I've said this in another video, but you know, when you're saving your styles, the Korg Pa5x will figure out what the first letter is and organize it that way. So I know the BL is blues. So these are all the styles, and I think I have a couple more in the first page of all the blues. And if I wanted something bluesy, I go to my BL, and there I am. Okay, so we got that going on. Let's go back. We got this style. Sounds good. Let's see if it works. Let's play it once. Sounds great. Excellent work. Okay. Now, for me, I wouldn't do this because it's just the way I'm running my studio. But one thing you want to do is you want to go to Settings, Audio, Video, Player 1, and then, of course, Player 2. And you're going to see bass is going out 3 and 4. My drums are going out 1 and 2. My percussion is going out 1 and 2. And all the other accompaniments are going out left and right. So that's something very important to think about when you're going to be sending signals out of the Korg into a DAW system, through a audio cable. Okay, so let's exit out, go back. And we know this works. So let's go to chords. And let's record a chord sequence. So we're going to hit record, and let's see what we got here. All right, we can expand that up. And there we have 4 bars of the E minor, 4 bars of the A minor, then 2 bars of the B, 2 bars of the A minor, and then back to E minor. We got 16 bars in that whole song. Okay, we got the chord progression all figured out, and it plays really nice. So now let's get it into the DAW system. So if you look over here at my DAW system, you're going to see track 1 is actually a stereo track with drums. Track 2 is a single mono track with the bass guitar. And then the rhythm accompaniments come in on track 3, which is a stereo track. So let's do a test on the style and see if it's working. Perfect. Everything's coming in great. We got good signal to everything. Now, the first thing we need to do is go over here and look. Let's exit to the main. And we got to look here and see, okay, 4/4 timing, 135 beats per minute. That's the big thing. If this was a waltz, a 3/4 or something, we got to make sure that that's right. Let's go back to the chords. Okay. So we want to come over here to the DAW system. We want to change this to 135. And we make sure that this is 4/4. Okay. Everything's looking good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hit the play on the keyboard and record on the software in the DAW system and start to record this. Okay, we stopped it. We'll get the chord progression back up. Come over to our software and stop. Now, one thing, a little side note, when you're doing things like this using your DOS system, go into your software and look for hotkeys. I developed my own hotkeys and set them up that way. So now I go back and rewind. I can go back to rewind. I can hit record, play just by hitting the number pads on my keyboard of the DOS system. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to play this back because, like I've said in several different videos, never trust your ears when you're playing, because sometimes when you're playing, you're going to have different noises in the room, the way you're playing, the keyboard, you're going to hear something that might not be being recorded. So you want to see what it sounds like being recorded. So let's see what this thing sounds like, what we just recorded. Doesn't sound too bad. And then we can go over here and let's solo these drums. Actually, let's do this. We know this is, let's go over here to 18 and slice the ends of these off. Get rid of these. Actually, we can get rid of that whole track and delete that. And we'll go over here and erase that. We're not going to really record that. Now, let's see how this looks. Let's go to repeat so we can keep this going. So when you have your stuff in the DOS system, you can bring up, now I like this little plug-in, and basically it's our EQ for the drums. If I want to get more kick, drums don't sound too bad. Now, it might sound a little different because your sound that you're hearing is actually going through my lavalier mics sitting here in my studio. So let's get out of this. Let's go to the bass and see how the bass sounds. Sounds pretty good. And what about the accompaniments? I think sounds pretty good, but you know what? I want to change. Let's go back in. So now let's go back to the mixer. What I want to do is I want accompaniment. Let's go back to our style and let's play this. Yeah, let's put it more in the center. That sounds a lot better. All right, go back to our chord progression. Okay, so now that we've made an adjustment to the style, let's go in and delete all these. Again, I can't say it enough. You really don't know what kind of sound you have until you record it and play it back. When you're playing an instrument, sometimes the noise, the vibration of playing the instrument can change the sound. So when you recorded it, we found that, hey, you know what? I want to get that accompaniment guitar a little bit more in the center because this is just an example and I want to balance it out. Again, I'm hearing it a lot differently here in my studio with these two monitors, but we had made the adjustment. So now let's do this again and get our DAW back over to 0. Make sure our repeat is off. And we got everything going on. Get ready. All right, now what I did was I let it repeat itself because I want to show you something else too in this when you have it in your DAW system. Because our timing is right on the money, we have the same beats per minute, we can go up here and let's go. We know that 17 is actually, we had a 16 bar music, and we know that 17 is the starting of a new bar. Now what we can do is we can look at this and we can go back to the beginning, and right here we can see so if we go back, so we're pretty accurate. So what we can do is come back here to the very end. We'll go to 17, put that thing right on 17, and we can look up right here, get that thing as close as we can. 17. Now we're going to go here, snip it, snip it, snip it. Now granted, this is an example and I'm doing it pretty quick. I'd actually take my time more if I was doing this for a real loop. But now we can click on this, make it loop, and now we're going to hear this. Did you see that? We don't even hear, you can't even hear. If I back it up, zoom out a little bit, you're going to see we've now created a loop. You can see it going from 15 up through that. Now we know we got something here. So we got it spliced right, everything's looking good. And, you know, playing it back, it really doesn't sound too bad. You know, that bass might be a little bit pounding a little bit too much. Now, what I have done here, what I did is put a little bit of reverb on the drums. So if we take that reverb out, not much. And there's a whole list of YouTube videos on EQing. We can EQ it to bring that drum out. But remember, if you're really interested in editing the drums, if we go back, here's our chord progression. If we go back to the main and we go to menu and we go to drum editor, remember, if you play it back and you say, hey, I recorded it, it just doesn't sound right, you can go over here and you can adjust your drums. So we're going to go to this drum kit and we can adjust the volume of the kick drum or the snare. And we can actually go in there and bring another drum kit in. We can EQ it. We can make that snare really snap. So, and that's another video. If you go back, I have a couple videos on that. So back to the chord progression. So it's really cool to work in the software. And then if I wanted to, I could hit F4 and I could export this thing out. Right now I'm exporting out as a WAV file stereo. I could export this thing out. Actually, I can export it out as an MP3. So there you have it. That's how I take a chord progression from the Korg Pa5x into my DOS system, alter it any way I want, and then I can export it to whatever the client wants. Pretty cool stuff. So there you have it. That's how I produce music using the Korg Pa5x. Now, granted, you could take probably that style and all the variations and export it out as an MP3, but I like bringing it in a DOS system. That way you have all the plugins, you can add more icing to the cake. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It'll help us grow the channel so I can bring you more things. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.